join us here, or if he's managed to get a good view from where he is. It's always a bit of a gamble with mating leopards because they could get up and move slightly into a completely different position before they mate. You hear the bleating warbler. Oh, head up. Oh, and two heads up. Now we must hope, keep our fingers crossed and all of those things, that these two do not decide to go any further to the west. Oh, Tingana's back down again. So is Thandi. But when they do go through here, the chances of us being able to follow them, even in our little vehicle, Taxon took one look at it and he said, if these leopards go any further west, we're going to lose them. Even Jamie won't be able to follow them. And that's just because it is monkey orange thicket that is so dense, I don't think we would manage it. We've got to just enjoy as much time as possible with these leopards. Well, the two of them, as subtle and mysterious as leopards are, you heard the noises that they were making, and that can and will alert almost everything in the area to their presence. And for the most part, that's absolutely fine. They're quick enough and agile enough to escape any unwanted attention. But Teresa was wondering, do leopards have any natural predators? Apart, of course, from... Oh, here she... Or not. Oh, even flatter. Completely stretched out and comfortable. And Teresa, yes, apart from man, of course, being the dominant apex predator in this area, although fortunately that man is not something that these leopards will ever have to worry about. Within the Sabi Sands, they are completely protected. Their biggest threat out here would be the lions. And I have seen lions chase leopards before. They have been recorded to kill leopards as well, although that very seldom happens just because the leopards are so much more agile than the lions. But leopards, another threat in terms of predators would be potentially wild dogs. There are occasional cases of them being recorded to harass leopards that they've managed to trap on the ground. Although the leopard's agility and tree climbing ability usually puts them far out of reach. And then occasionally hyenas, although most of the time hyenas and leopards have a relatively stable interaction. So a leopard will be chased off a kill by hyenas, but they won't go far. They'll sit and growl. For example, Thandi's sister Shadow and that sighting with Peter Pretorius where she killed an impala and was promptly chased off by two hyena, and she sat probably about 20 meters away, 60 feet away, just growling. Their biggest threat is during their first year of life. The cubs are the ones that face the highest mortality, and that's because they're not as alert, they're not nearly as agile as other animals or as the adults are. Their biggest threat, 50% of cub mortality, is accounted for by interactions with other males. So unknown males coming in and killing the cubs in order to bring the female back into estrus and to pass on their own genetics. The rest of the other 50% is made up of a combination of hyenas, lions. Very seldom will there be cases of leopard cubs being killed. For example, it'll be a very small percentage of leopard cubs being killed by eagles or snakes. And that's only when they've strayed from the den site or being located in the den site. That's a very unusual situation. Yesterday afternoon, when we were alerted to the presence, just chatting a bit about Thandi's territory and the movements of them, when we were told about this sighting, James gave you that update that there were 3 leopards there and that we suspected that the 3rd was Karula. James, you are absolutely right. There was a 3rd leopard, and it did turn out to be Karula. She did exactly what she did the last time this happened. The last time Thandi moved into her territory to mate with Tingana, Karula approached and sat a couple of meters away and growled and dribbled and was just very, very upset. And the same thing happened yesterday, and I think you can imagine how them being so close to her den site, even though they're not a threat, would definitely have put her nose out of joint. She cannot have been terribly impressed with them. So they moved away from her rather than her moving away from them. She's probably still with the cubs around Little Gowrie. That's where her den site is. It's to the south of our Traverse area. So she probably just stayed while they moved out. But you never know. She may have heard them coming further south again, and she might just make another appearance. That would be very interesting if Karula decided to come and join us. She does tend to do that. There is another vehicle that is trying to make their way in, and I might have to, in order to give him a view, I might have to reposition slightly. We'll wait for now until he gets in here, and we'll just give the leopards a chance to decide if they're going to stay here or if they're going to move. Nemo is wondering about the pretty little blue flower in front of our very sleepy leopards. And Nemo, from here it looks like it is a commelina. A commelina flower named after the Commelina brothers, who were all botanists. And there were 3 of them, just like there are 3 petals of the commelina flower. That's what it looks like from where I am sitting. Quite difficult to judge, and as much as I appreciate the presence of Thandi, I don't think I'm going to be heading over there to pluck it anytime soon. But what I'll do for you is I will have a look out, and we'll ask Brent to have a look out for one of them as well, so that we can give you a slightly closer view. Isn't it incredible how the flowers have shot up recently, just since the rain? I really thought it was too late, but the ground is covered on quarantine in strings of stars and devil thorn flowers. The change in the environment is phenomenal. Poor Mike. Poor Mike is trying to make his way into this sighting. It's not an easy thing to do, and it's made a lot more difficult when the vehicle is about twice the length of ours. Oh, hold on. Which way is he going? Oh, no, that's okay. Now, I've tracked a couple of leopards before that have been sleeping just like Thandi, and the 2 of us have surprised each other in the most interesting way. You can just imagine the reaction when you're walking along and all of a sudden there's a leopard exploding out of the ground in front of you, or off the ground in front of you, although it does feel as though they've popped up out of the ground and launching itself away from you. It doesn't often happen. I mean, we walk around with our senses very much on high alert. Oh, I think she's going to get up now. Sorry, I just need to give Mike some instructions here. Mike for Jamie. Mike, have you seen where these ingwe are?
Jamie, I haven't got visual yet, but I'm right at the scene.
Okay, copy. They're just about 10 meters away from you on my left in this thicket. I don't think you're going to get a visual going in the direction you're going in. I think come around the marula tree that's on your right. Come around and come behind me.
Okay, alright, copy, no problem.
Just making sure poor Mike doesn't make his life even more difficult in this thick block. Oh, so much for Thandi deciding to move. And speaking about how difficult it is for us to find leopards, it is much, much easier if you're a leopard yourself. And Charlotte, who's watching in Port Elizabeth, Charlotte would like to know, how do these leopards find each other when it comes time to mate? Does the female follow the scent marking of the male? Charlotte, there's a combination of different factors. A lot of the time, the female will find the male through scent marking. A lot of the time, the male will actually find the female through her scent marking as well. Obviously, it's up to her to let him know that she's in estrus, and that comes through very clearly in the urine spraying that they both do. So she will urine scent mark, he will be on his regular patrols. She will be a lot more active in terms of her scent marking when she is in estrus. So she'll move about her, sort of the fringes of her territory or her home range. And as soon as a male comes through that is possibly, or that will be interested, he'll have a good sniff and then start looking for her. The other way that they find each other is through calling. Now, I'm just going to have to reposition ever so slightly, see if I can't help Mike out here and make it a bit clearer. I'll move forward for you now. Can you see them there? Okay, we're just going to share this sighting with the rest of the guests. They haven't had a chance to see it. So I'm going to try and shuffle forward so that we will only have a view of Thandi for now. Sorry, Brian, I'm going to put you at a bit of an angle. And let's let Mike move forward a bit behind us. Hopefully we'll be in a prime spot to see Tingana when he does get up to mate. I'm sure they're going to get up soon anyway to mate. Fingers crossed. Now that I've said that, they're going to spend the rest of the morning fast asleep. Oh, I think, unfortunately, where we are now, Brian can't really see Tingana. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and shuffle about, see if I can't find us a better view. While I do that, let's find out what Brent is up to for the morning.
So VM and I are checking at the northern perimeter, seeing if there's any tracks of the Nkuhumas possibly coming back. And I heard the pretty leopard were in front of a pretty flower. And I went and found said pretty flower so you guys could have a closer look. And it is a blue commelina. There we go, very pretty flower. Got the two very big petals and one very small petal. I always think a lot of these flowers look like elephants. So if you put it there, you need to use your imagination slightly. You can see there's ears and the eyes. This one's got a third eye, but in the trunk and the two tusks. Oh, sorry, my cap's in the way. Here we go. Blue commelina, named after 3 botanists that were brothers, and 2 made major discoveries, and that's represented by the 2 big petals, and the 3rd, he died before he could do anything of influence, and represented by the small one. So many flowers. Megan's wondering if there are any herbs or spices in the bush that can be used for cooking. Well, Megan, that licorice or aniseed that VM and I were eating earlier can be used for cooking. Also, there's wild basil, onicum, that can also be used for cooking. But since we are going to do some flowers, this is a good spot. We have some multiple species. So there's species number 1. And species number 2, number 3. I saw another one here somewhere. Oh, we'll just do 3 for now, and we'll keep going. Unfortunately, well, some of these are edible, but you need to cook them first. And look at me, I'm a decorator. And there we go, species number 4. So we got yellow, white, pinky and blue. Let me just put my ears back in. So this, I think James showed you yesterday on the sunrise fire. It's called wing-seeded sesame. Now you can extract oil that can be used for cooking and whatnot from this one. Oh, very interesting, very interesting. Oh, no, it's not. So I thought I saw a mite inside, but it wasn't. So wing-seeded sesame. And let's do that one last. And this is the one, we all know this one. We see it quite often. We've shown it to you many times. It is called a string of stars or a lamb's tail. Probably the most common of the wildflowers we see. And it is a heliotrope, so during the day when the sun is shining, the flowers will move ever so slowly, slower than the human eye can see, following the sun through the sky. Now, this one you should definitely not eat. This one doesn't even have an English common name. It's only got a scientific name, and it's called Waltharia indica. And this is the host plant species for my favorite type of butterfly, the acreas, and the larval stage sequest a poison from it, hydrogen cyanide. So when they become adults, they are very noxious, and that's why they are very beautifully colored, to warn all the birds not to eat them because they taste fuffy. Now, on to the last, but certainly not the least. It is definitely the least in what can be used, and interesting things about it. Not much about it apart from that this grows on disturbed sandy soils. I just think it is one of the prettiest flowers we find. It is so delicate and so tiny. It's called a blue haze. I also just like the name, I think. Its scientific name is an evolvus. So it's evolving, I'm not sure how, but I just think it's incredibly beautiful and incredibly delicate. The blue haze. Okay, let's meander on. While we meander on, let's go back to Djuma and the leopards.
Okay, so there's another vehicle that would very much like to come and join this sighting. And since the other 2 vehicles haven't had a chance to see the mate, it's time for me to pull out and let them come in. Just thought we'd say a brief goodbye to them. And if we have a chance towards the end of the sunrise safari, we will come back to these leopards. I just wanted to let you know I do have to leave now, but that we will come back if we can. It's just fair to let the other vehicles have a chance. So while I make my way out of this block, why don't you head back onto the back of Brent's vehicle?
Alas, you had to leave those wonderful kitty cats, but hopefully we'll be able to catch up with them either later in the drive or on the sunset safari with James and myself. But for now, we are checking the northern perimeter, seeing if we can find any signs of the Nkrumah pride. Oh, yellow, 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 bright and beautiful. There we go. Now this, it's absolutely stunning. This is a senna, and the smell, I'm actually taking this home. I'm going to put it in my bedroom. Oh, it is gorgeous. Smell that, Liam. So, better than the best perfume. I'm trying to describe this. It does almost smell like roses, believe it or not. Wow, that is beautiful. So, very pretty flowers. And one of the things I love about flowers, and I am a very, very big flower fan, it has got me mocked on many occasions, but how each different species of flower has got a different design, specially suited to different types of insects. Now, if we go back to my favorite little pretty blue one, now you can see the size difference between them, and the same insect that pollinates this is definitely not going to pollinate that. So the sort of different little segments of the flower they're all designed to suit a different species of insect. Now these guys, you can see they're big and open, quite often get fed on by quite a few different fruit chafer beetles. So the fruit chafer beetle, it's designed to be big enough that the beetle can crawl through there, get covered in pollen, fly off to the next one. Also, you find quite a lot of the big wasp species, and of course honeybees. Now, and then this little one, there's actually a couple of tiny species of wasp that feed off this, but mostly it's flies that pollinate the little blue evolvus. So I do love flowers. I think I'm actually going to pick another one to put in my room to get. There we go. Ah, almost want to tie it around the base of my neck so I can.
It looks nice.
So smart. VM says this looks nice. I don't know what you guys think, but yes. I want some tape. Okay. VM is now forcing me to do this now. Let me just strip the bottom leaves. It can be my corsage. And a very important thing, if you're on any form of film set, there are two of the most important things you need out here. VM is going to fetch the other one now. One of them is good tape, and VM will never be found anywhere in the world without a packet of these, of various different sizes, cable ties. So you can pretty much fix anything with some good old duct tape or gaffer tape and a cable tie. Okay, here we go. There we go. Pop that there. How's it look, VM?
Are you going to a wedding?
It looks like I'm going to a wedding. There's no weddings today, but it smells so nice. So, Nemo, on the subject of flowers, I was wondering, are there any edible wild flowers like buttercups? There are a few edible flower species, but quite often they need to be prepared, so you can't just eat them raw. Or you probably could. They wouldn't do anything bad to you, but they probably just wouldn't taste too pleasant until they've been prepared. So another one of the edible flower species that we saw a couple of days ago is the wild foxglove. Now, raw, it has the most disgusting smell. It smells very similar to cat urine, but once it's cooked, it becomes really, really sweet and tasty. So I'm trying to think of offhand any flowers that you can just eat. I'm afraid I might be incorrect. I'm sure there is one, but my brain is not functioning to find it. But I will keep thinking about that, Nemo. But you can eat a lot of the flowers, but generally they need to be prepared first. Oh dear, can't have that now. Sorry, I didn't stick it properly. There we go. Now, a long time ago, when I used to work in a very busy, fancy safari lodge, I had a guest who would literally throw up at the smell of a carcass, which is quite difficult when you're trying to show people lions and leopards, because quite often they're around very smelly carcasses. And this exact species of plant, the senna, I literally broke off a branch for her, and we went into a very, very rotten hippo carcass that was being fed on by the coalition of male lions at the time, which was the Mapocho males, and she literally spent the next 45 minutes like this. while looking at the lions, breathing in the beautiful smell of the senna, rather than the rotting, maggoty corpse of the hippopotamus. Questions? And if there is anyone new there who's not sure how to get your question answered, pop us an email on questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. So on the subject of lions and some color variations, Emily is wondering, would like to know more about white lions, and are there any in the area? Unfortunately, there are not. There are some not too far away from us, though. Some to the east of us and some to the north of us, northwest. So, white lions it's a double recessive genetic that causes that. The correct terminology for them is leucism. They're leucistic lions, and that means they're not albinos. Albinos is a complete lack of pigment in the skin and the hair. Leucism is just a lack of pigment in the hair only. So it's generally more common in birds. You find a lot more leucistic birds than animals. So white lions are leucistic lions. And the area that white lions are most famous from is just to the northwest of us. It's called, oh dear, there I need more tape. It's called the Timbavati Private Game Reserve. And it is an area where the Birmingham boys come from. So it is possible that those Birmingham boys carry that white lion gene, but for a double recessive gene to come through, thank you, Vin, you actually need to have both male and female carrying that gene. So it's no point one or the other carrying. And so it has to be the male and the female both carry that gene, and that's when it comes through. Now there have just been some new white lions that were born in the Kruger National Park to the east of us. So there's 3 of them there at the moment. I think there's another 3 or 4 in the Timbavati. So unfortunately, with the captive lion industry and breeding industry and cub petting and all those horrible things, white lions are quite a sought-after creature. So a lot of people have put a lot of white lions or done genetic tests, and any lion that carries that recessive gene, they'll try and mate with another lion that has that recessive gene. So a lot of the white lions you see in zoos and places around the world are very, very inbred. So it is a bit of a problem. Everyone seems to like an anomaly. So it has caused excessive breeding, so you find there's very little genetic variation in a lot of wild lions in captivity. Fortunately, the ones in the wild, in the Timbavati, they're very healthy genetically. But who knows? Maybe one of the Nguma ladies is carrying the recessive gene, and the Birmingham boys as well. Now, don't get too excited. I'm playing speculation here. It's highly unlikely that the Ngumas or the sticks are carrying that recessive gene. Not impossible. Probably a chance of about 1 in a million. So there's always the possibility we could have a white lion born in the Sabi Sands. However, in the last 30 or 40 years, there hasn't been one. So that probably means that the females in this area are not carrying that gene. But you never know. Megan, back to the flowers, one of my favorite topics during the summer months. And Megan would like to know, is there a national or official flower of South Africa? There is. It's a very beautiful flower as well, and it is called the Protea. Now, unfortunately, I do not have it in a book with me, so I suggest you go online and search Protea. There are quite a few different species in South Africa, but the national flower of South Africa is the King Protea. Very, very beautiful, very big flower. And King Proteas are endemic to Fynbos, if I remember correctly. Fynbos is a very specific biome that occurs around the Western Cape. Now, we do have other Proteas that occur outside of the fynbos, but they are a mountainous species, so they're high up on the mountains. So have a look online, Google Protea, P-R-O-T-E-A, or more specific, King Protea. That is the national flower of South Africa. Speaking of national things, of course, the national animal of South Africa is the springbok. That is also the name of our rugby team. The national bird of South Africa. Liam, do you know what the national bird of South Africa is? Yes, well done, Liam. It is the blue crane. Do we have a national tree? I'm not sure. I don't think we do. Maybe if you guys check, I think we do. I'm not sure what it is. So do me a favor, jump on that Google search engine or whatever you prefer and type in National Tree of South Africa and let me know. You guys can teach me something today. What is the National Tree of South Africa? So if you find out that information, pop me an email, questions@WildEarth.tv, or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So those lions were chasing buffalo probably about 2-3 kilometers from this very point. We're going to start checking very carefully for tracks, and fingers crossed that they have decided to bless us with their presence. But I do have a sneaky sinking sensation that they are still to the north. Don't fly, don't fly. It's not something, we see them quite often, but they generally fly away at speed. There we go. A red-faced mousebird. Oh, there it goes. Darn it, it was a quick view. It is one that I think some of you might be able to add to your bird list, because we haven't managed to catch them on camera too often. They seem to be quite skittish and flying around. And it's nice to get a view of a bird we don't see often, specifically on a morning like this, which is not a great birding morning. I did know that. Thanks to Jason and Tim. I did know that, I just couldn't remember. The national tree of South Africa is a yellowwood, and they're very beautiful trees. Generally live in the Misbelt region, so somewhere between the high veld and the low veld, and in forests. They are very, very slow growing trees and actually quite endangered. So the first colonial settlers used yellowwood for everything. The wood is fantastic. It is now illegal to cut them down, of course. My parents have a massive yellowwood table. Now that was made probably about 200 or so, 180 years ago. Well, the wood was cut, and it was used as the beams in a big old farmhouse. And as that farmhouse got dilapidated, my dad managed to find that wood, and he got a carpenter to turn it into this beautiful dining room table. But it is a stunning wood, and any yellow wood furniture products are very, very valuable, because of course you can't make any more, and it is illegal to chop any of them. And there we go. Thanks for that, Jason and Tim. You learn something new every day, and thanks for helping me out there, guys. And while we continue the hyena track to check for lion tracks, let's go see what Jamie's been up to.
The only place where I've actually seen a yellowwood tree in this particular area, and I think the only area that it actually occurs in within the Lowveld, is on a mountain known as Maripskorp. Now, Maripskorp is part of the Drakensberg mountain range. It's the tallest mountain in this particular area, and it has the most incredible vegetation you will ever see. You drive up towards it. You can drive, you can also climb it if you really want to, but you can drive up along bush, just like the bush we're looking at now, typical low-veld woodland, bushveld woodland or savanna. And you drive up a little bit, and all of a sudden you hit this line where the mist, it's basically the mist line and the cloud line, and it turns into forest. The most incredible, it's almost like a rainforest, it's so moist. It's the most fascinating experience because the transition is completely sudden. And then if you continue on upwards and you go up just that little bit further, you get to vegetation that is basically described as fynbos. Our fynbos, of course, you spoke about the national flower, the protea. Fynbos is a distinct floral kingdom, and it's South Africa is the only place in the world where the entire floral kingdom is contained within one small area, and that's around the Cape area. But if you go up to the top of Mariepskop, you'll actually find all of these rhinoceros type bushes and parts of the daisy family that is definitive of fynbos. It's absolutely incredible to witness. Hello, buffaloes. Come across to Treehouse Dam just while I wait for our chance to go back into that sighting once the other vehicles have pulled out. Just the vague thought that perhaps Karula might have decided to follow along the tracks of the mating pair. Her den site is sort of about 2 kilometers south, directly south of Treehouse Dam. So she could well have come through this area. At the moment, though, the only occupants of Treehouse Dam appear to be these Dugger boys. Down, and you'll find that, again, that is the typical behavior exhibited by animals in this windy weather. They prefer to lie down, let the wind glance over them. But yes, Mariepskop, if you ever find yourself in South Africa and in the Hoedspruit area or the Kruger area, I would highly, highly recommend paying a visit to Mariepskop. It is breathtakingly beautiful, and apparently on a clear day you can see all the way across to the sea, which is that's very far away from where we are at the moment. Now, Brian and I were just discussing I know you were discussing national birds and stuff. We were trying to think of our if we have a national arthropod or an insect. I've suggested that the South African national arthropod should maybe be a millipede, but I have absolutely no idea if we have one or not. Do we? I have no idea. But I feel as though a shongololo or a millipede, maybe I'm biased because they're my favorite arthropod. Standing by. Copy that, thank you. There's nobody else who wants to make their way to that. Sighting.
So far today, someone.
Copy that, perfect, thanks. I'm at Treehouse Dam, I'll be there in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Awesome, okay.
Jamie, how far are they from Triple M at the moment?
Brent, they're far still. I'm not showing any signs of getting mobile yet.
Copy, thanks.
Okay, let's do a quick loop and make our way back towards our lovely leopards. Hopefully we can have a chance to see them mating properly, not through all the bush. And vegetation, and see them mate as opposed to just listen to them. I know we have a national fish. I know we do. And I cannot think what it is. I feel like it's a yellow something, although that maybe I'm just confusing it with the yellowwood. But I'm sure you'll all agree, millipede is definitely a good choice for a national, not insect, it's not an insect by the truest definition. It's an arthropod. feel as though the national fish should be a coelacanth. It's not. The coelacanth, of course, being a fish that was thought to be long since extinct until they found one off the coast of Cape Town. But I believe that it's not, and the national fish is called a... What is that again? A falcon, or a black bean fish, apparently, is what Kirsty tells me in Final Control. It's a tricky name. I still feel like it should be a coelacanth. Now, the funny story about the national bird in Botswana, apparently, is something that I was always told. So the national bird of Botswana is a western cattle egret, officially. However, most of the depictions of their national bird do not look like the somewhat, in their opinion, boring western cattle egret, and they've in fact decided that perhaps the lilac-breasted roller would be a better choice. And I could sort of see where that comes from, the bright-coloured purples and blues. Well, I quite like western cattle egrets in their own way. A bird that we occasionally see here, but not all that frequently. Just want to double check these tracks that are walking along the road. I think it's just hyena. No. Hold on. Leopard tracks. This must have been where they crossed in. The light is terrible, otherwise I would show you what I'm looking at. Just want to double check again because it could be Karula. It could be Karula coming in hot on their heels in response to the presence of her daughter in her territory. Oh, they've disappeared off the road. Trying to see if there were male tracks there as well, or if it was just females. The feet looked a little bit big for Karula. Karula's tracks are quite tiny. But that was specifically why I came across to this area. Brent for Jamie. Brian, on your side, can you see if it's just female, or can you see if there's a bigger track with it? Just the one.
There's one available spot.
Interesting. Very interesting. Copy that. Thanks, Mike. I'm making my way back towards that sighting unless anyone wants to go ahead of me. There we go. I think we've got two sets of tracks there. Let me pull over so that you can see more clearly what I'm looking at.
Yeah, Jamie, it seems like you're good to come through then. There's also another route on the other side of the Ingwes, on the opposite end of where you were, where you can actually see them from the front. There's a little bit of a gap, so I don't know if that's maybe better as well.
Copy that. Thanks, Mike. I'll see you when I get there. Just bear with me 1 second. We are going back towards these leopards, but I just...
on the western track.
Brent, I was just wondering if we knew exactly where these Ingwe crossed. I've just found some tracks form a fuzzy on the road coming up from towards Treehouse from the Gowrie Main Shabam Junction.
Copy. Also the tracks of Djuma.
I think Karula's followed behind.
With amazing birds. Tracks of Gorman have gone to just located in the west.
Okay.
I might go have a
Copy that. Sorry, guys. Just chatting to Brent. We're just getting an update. He's been tracking the Nkuhumas, But unfortunately, they've just been found on Simbambili, so outside of our Traverse area. And I just want to check this very carefully because I want to see, no, this is Tingana. These are too big for ladies. No. Definitely male there as well. Okay. So this is where Thandi and Tingana crossed in. That doesn't mean that Karila's tracks are not here though. She could well be following behind just to make sure, or just to monitor exactly where Thandi is in relation to her territory. Okay, I'm going to make my way back towards that leopard sighting. While I do, let's find out how Brent's tracking experiences have been going.
So unfortunately, we've just found the tracks of the Inkahumas, and I just spoke to the guys in Simbambili, and they have found them. So they were chasing a herd of buffalo across the road behind us. It doesn't look like they were successful. So the ladies are still hungry, and that means hopefully they'll come back towards us on the sunset safari. But they have seemed to be avoiding us at the moment, just diving through the corner. Just 1 second. Go ahead. Copy, thanks. So it looks like Karila was trailing the mating pair last night, as she often does when a random female comes into her territory. Although this female is not random, it is her daughter from her first litter, Shadow's sister. Vibrations. Let's try avoid a home range or territory to mate. And there's sort of almost, it's like an unwritten rule between female leopards. They won't really attack that female while she's mating, but they will keep an eye on her to make sure that she leaves the territory. So that's quite often, and we've seen Karila follow Kwatile and Vula when they were mating. We've seen her follow Thandi and Tingana when they were mating, so it is quite normal. Now, update on Kwatile, she has not been seen again, so in all likelihood she has moved on to the next plane from that snake bite. Yesterday I was very fortunate. I was visiting friends of mine, and I got to see Takani, which is Kwatile's daughter, who's about 3 years old at the moment, and she seems to have inhabited that most of what was Kwatile's territory. Very beautiful little leopard. It looks very similar to her mother, and her mother was a particularly pretty leopard. So that is how it works out here. So it did not take long for that void that was left by Kwatile to be filled. Actually, let's show you. I have a treat. I will post some pictures of this, but I do have a few pictures of that beautiful little leopard, and she is in. Let's find a good one for you guys. Yeah, there we go. The one on top of the termite mound. I think that's a nice one. There we go. You can see how young she is. No marks on her ears yet. Very little scarring or scratches on her face. So there we go. That is Takani, who has taken over her mother's territory. Now, I was chatting to the guys who see her quite regularly, and she has been spotted with the Anderson male, but she hasn't been seen mating yet. She might be a little bit on the young side for mating. If she is going to mate, it's going to be probably in the next couple of months. So very, very exciting. Even though we don't get to see her often, just to know that Kwatile's lineage carries on. Now, I know that whole family of leopards from when I worked to the south, and we used to see quite a few of them. So she is of a river leopard lineage, so her genetics come all the way from the Sand River. Very, very interesting. And with all the Panthera studies at the moment, to be able, once that stuff is released, to be able to interconnect and figure out how the different lineages moved, where they've moved to, So she is still what we would classify as a river leopard. So just on the Manyeleti River. So she's taken over that Kwatile zone, and it is a very beautiful zone on a big sand river. Now imagine the Mawati and times it by 10, so this big sand river. We're going to try get off the corrugations and go see what else we can find inside Djuma. Chatting about leopards and leopard cubs, and of course the very exciting fact that Shadow and Karuna both have cubs at the moment. Amanda is wondering, how long will a leopard cub stay with its mother? Now, Amanda, it depends whether it's a male or female. The males will stay quite a lot longer than the females. The females generally will become independent just over a year. And what the mother does to give that cub the best opportunity at getting a nice successful start in life, she will generally almost give away a portion of her territory to her cub. Oh, sorry. Just listen to the radio quickly. Just finding out about Birmingham male lions, where they are, what they're up to, but nowhere where we can go, and it doesn't look like they're heading towards us anytime soon. So carrying on with the leopard cub discussion, as I was saying, the female leopard will almost give away a portion of the core of her home range to a mother leopard will give to a female cub. Now this enables this female cub to have a very easy start in life. She doesn't immediately have to go out and start fighting for a territory with an older and established leopard. So the female will actually go do that. And if you watch female home rangers, the older they get, the smaller they become, as she gives off various parts to her offspring. Now, male leopards will spend a lot more time with mum. They will stay with mum normally to just around 2 years, even as long as 3 years, but normally around 2 to 2.5 years they'll stay with mum. Now, the reason a female leopard seems to put more effort into raising a boy is that is the best chance for her genetic code to be passed on to a lot of different females. So, of course, those males at about 2.5, 3 years old will become nomadic, and they will wander often very far from their natal home range. And by the time they're sort of 5, 6 and start challenging for a territory, they are very far from the mom's spot. So, and over a male leopard's life, he's going to mate with multiple females. So the reason that the female spends a little bit longer with those males is that it's the best chance for her genetics to be passed on to multiple different females. Also, that male has to immediately, as he becomes dispersal, he's got a much tougher life than that female who's got this lovely insular little territory often within her mother's. So it is very interesting that, and it's oh, excuse me, amazing how evolution has created these different tactics for the same animal and even the same litter. So we were chatting about, and I just showed you a picture of Tikani, and Maurice is saying she's left her home range, and hopefully we'll see her on Djuma. I think it's unlikely. I think she's very much in the core of what was her mother's territory where we saw her yesterday. So I think it's not impossible, but it's unlikely that we see her on Djuma. If we do see her on Djuma, it is probably going to be a very similar situation to what we experience now with Tingana and Thandi, is that she's going to be following a male to mate, and I think that's our best chance at seeing her on the live drives. So we're going to go have a sniff around the treehouse, that area. So there were tracks of 2 females, and Tingana. So I think Karuna might have been trailing them last night. So we don't have any tracks crossing back south. So there's a strong possibility she is in that area, and that is one of her most favoured hunting areas. So we're going to do a little meander past the treehouse waterhole, just have a look around. I might have to take off my flower in case I need to smell for rotting carrion so we can find a carcass. And if we get no luck there, then we'll amble down towards the Mawati riverbed, see if we can possibly pick up any tracks in that area. So, chatting about birds, and I know you guys heard a very strange noise on the Djuma cam a few nights ago. It sounded like something getting murdered, and I'm 100% sure now, after listening to it again and having a look, it is a grey heron. And Monkey Man's wondering, do we ever get Goliath herons? Now, Goliath heron is, of course, the biggest heron species. Imagine that with a name like Goliath. And Monkey Man's wondering, do we ever get them on Djuma? We do, but they generally are more pescivorial than the other herons. So they do eat frogs and etc., but they do have a very strong affinity for fish. And after that very dry patch we went through this wet season, the fact that most of the fish have died or are hiding under the mud has meant we haven't seen too many. Last wet season we saw, and I think the best chance at seeing them would be having a look on the Arathusa dam cam. Arathusa will probably pull the odd Goliath heron. That's not to say it's impossible for them to arrive at Djuma, and they do move between different bodies of water, but I think for this year they're going to be more concentrated around the more permanent pieces of water, so around the Sand River, the Sabi River, and the bigger man-made waterholes like the one in Arathusa. There's one in Chitwa and in Buffelshoek. Actually, I did see one the last time I was fortunate enough to go up north to Buffelshoek. So I'm sure a few of you are wondering what a Goliath heron looks like. It is a very pretty bird, and it is a very big bird. So, there we go. There we go. It is the largest heron in the world as well. So they're very pretty, very regal looking. Now, they are about 1.4 meters tall, so very, very tall. It is a very beautiful bird, very distinguishable because of its large size. Of the heron species, he'll eat much bigger fish than the others, and hopefully we will get one before the dry season sets in fully. And I think maybe Buffelshoek Dam might be our spot to spot the Goliath heron. And while we continue on, we're going to, as I said, we're going to head towards Treehouse, see if we can find Karula. But while we do that, Jamie is back with Tingana and the loved one, Thandi.
We have arrived back at our mating leopard pair. They are currently occupied in their favorite occupation, or with their favorite occupation, of sleeping. At least we've got a really nice view of Tingana now. And now sitting all by ourselves with these two leopards. Thandi, although you can't really see her, is right hidden at the back. There you go. You can just see the spots of the back of her neck. That's Thandi at the back there. And fingers crossed they'll still be here this afternoon as well for the sunset safari. It's just going to be a matter or a question of finding them. He's found such a comfortable looking leopard spot. I can't even at this point tell what tree that used to be, but this fallen one, you can see all of the charred marks around its base. So that's probably what killed it. Either lightning or fire moving through this area. And I know that this area did burn a couple of years ago. And there's a chance, a small chance, but a chance nonetheless, that they will come and pay us a visit. And that's always interesting, watching elephants interact with predators, even leopards. Now, if they spot them, they will try, there's a very good chance that they will try and chase them away. I've seen it happen once or twice before. And in that respect, elephants are fascinating because there's some kind of residual instinct there that tells them that they must chase a predator, even a leopard that is of absolutely no threat to them whatsoever. And wild dogs even less so, yet wild dogs seem to offend them the most. Oh. Lots of trumpeting. Very upset elephants. I'm just going to listen for a second. They're far away. But it always makes me wonder, having chatted a bit about their reaction to other predators, if they haven't possibly encountered something that's upset them. The fact that they're still trumpeting. Usually when elephants are upset with each other, the squeals or the trumpets last for a little while, but they stop relatively quickly. It might also be the wind. I spoke about the fact that it is a windy day. It might also be the wind that's unsettling them. I'll keep listening. You never know. Wild dogs are so unpredictable. They might have just decided to run onto the property without any of us being aware of it. Tingana, however, not in any way interested in the sound effects of the morning. Now, Bea, you have suggested that the tail looks as though it has a life of its own. I find leopard tails absolutely fascinating. The degree or the lack of control that a lot of the cats, but particularly leopards, seem to demonstrate over that tricky thing that is the tail is so interesting and intricate to watch. Of course, that tail plays such an important role in communicating their mood to other leopards and to other animals, as well as a rudder for when they are running, a sort of a counterbalance. But look at it twitch. I mean, yes, we see their ears twitch a lot, but that's almost always in response to flies or to noises. This tail doesn't have any flies around it. It just twitches. And I've noticed, I don't know what it is, but particularly Karula to me, and I did ask the other day whether any of the viewers agree with me that Karula seems to have a more active tail than, for example, Tingana does. I've just noticed that even when she's asleep, there's that constant flick and twitch. The interesting thing is that tail, or that lack of control over the tail, can sometimes give them away when they're moving through an area. Because it's got the very clear white tip to the end, that color shows up very clearly to the animals in the bush. And I've seen a leopard stalk for hours before. And then at the last moment, it's as though the tail gives an involuntary twitch. And then the animals immediately notice that and go racing off away from the leopard. I don't know, it's interesting that they've evolved in that manner. Obviously, the uses of the tail outweigh its disadvantages of not having that degree of control. And a warm welcome to Sarah, who is watching and asking her questions on Twitter and would like to know what the difference is. There goes that tail again. What the difference is between a leopard and a cheetah. Brilliant question, one that is two animals that are very easily confused to people who are unfamiliar with them. So a leopard is built for stealth and strength. They've got very, very stocky bodies. And just have a look, Sarah. I know it's not the easiest thing to see, but try and have a look at the spots, particularly around his bottom and his back. They're not solid spots. They are what's known as rosettes. So these spots sort of form a little ring around, ring-like pattern. And it's only around their legs and their face that they actually have solid spots, whereas cheetah have completely solid spots. Leopards have retractable claws because they utilize them for hunting and for climbing. They need to stay sharp and protected and out of the way. Whereas with cheetah, they need their claws for traction when they run. So their claws are semi-non-retractable and very often quite distinctly clear in their tracks. I'm going to show you a picture just to make what I've said easier. And the biggest defining feature of a cheetah, or one that I think most people are the most familiar with, is the tear marks that run down from the corner of their eyes. So this is the cheetah. Long limbs, claws at the tip, and then those dark marks that run down the side of the face. And the big reason why they have those is because, unlike leopards, cheetah are active during the day. They are not nocturnal cats. That is because they're smaller than all of the other cats in this area, big cats in this area. So they rather would hunt during the day when there's less competition. So those dark stripes actually absorb the glare of the sun and make it a bit easier for them to hunt. There's the solid spots. Now if we flip over, just to give you a comparison of size and that you can actually see the clearer difference in body structure. You see how long-legged and sort of thin and athletic-looking a cheetah is? It is so that it is capable of those bursts of speed. Whereas a leopard, much stockier, slightly shorter but heavier and more powerful. A cheetah would never be able to drag a kill up a tree in the same way that a leopard can. So a leopard is much, much heavier. And then, of course, just for comparison, you can see how much larger a lion is in terms of size and shape. And just last thing, because we can't see it as clearly on Tingana as I would like to be able to answer you properly, this is what I mean by the rosettes. You see how they're not solid spots? They're sort of a series of spots around a slightly discolored patch of fur. And no claws visible. So those are the big differences between leopards and cheetahs. In terms, physiologically, in terms of evolution, the cheetahs are a completely separate branch of the cat family. They do not fall under the Panthera heading. The Panthera cats are basically defined by their ability to roar, which cheetah absolutely do not do. And in fact, they make very uncat-like or sounds that we would never associate with big cats in Africa. They chirp like birds and they purr. But their best, my favorite call of a cheetah sort of goes, sounds nothing like what a big cat should sound like. They're very, very different. They tend to be much more retiring. They also occur in much smaller numbers in this particular area. It's hard if you're a cheetah to really get up to full speed in such thick vegetation. Our Ellies have finally gone silent, but I know that Brent is sort of around the area where they have been calling. Let's find out if he could hear them and what he thinks might be happening.
So no sign of the Queen of Djuma yet, but we're still on the prowl. And while we've been prowling, we have been keeping our eye open for edible plants. And we do have another one to show you. It's quite a nice one, very pretty one. There we go. You can see that purple. That purple isn't actually the flower, it's a leaf. Now, my thinking on this is that that leaf is probably, that color is to attract certain insects. And you can see the flowers, actually, that's a bit of flower there. They're white. Now, this is very similar to something you would find in your kitchen at home. This is onychum, the wild basil. So lovely. It smells slightly different to your normal basil that you would have in your kitchen, but it's definitely a basil. The smell you can and the taste as well. It is definitely basil, very, very tasty. I personally like to use it with lamb when I'm cooking, but normally in the summer seasons there's lots of them, and I've only seen 3 so far, but they've become very big bushes. And if I spot a bush while we're driving, I shall show it to you. But yum, 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 yum. So Jamie's just said she heard some elephants trumpeting and was wondering if I heard them. I think I'm a bit far at the moment from where Jamie is with the lovers, Tingana and Thandi. It would be nice to catch up with some ellies before the end of the drive there. Haven't seen any yet today. Lots of tracks all over the place. Oh, this basil's got stuck on my palate. But while I try and deal with this basil issue, and it's not basil faulty, although his reincarnation in the name of James Hendry is wandering around on the reserve somewhere. But someone was wondering, oh sorry, if we have any honeysuckle plants here. And yes, we do. Maybe not. I'm trying to think if I've seen any in Djuma. I haven't, but they do occur in South Africa. Sorry, in South Africa. And there's 2 types. There's one that's a bush and one that's a creeper. So we do, and very beautiful flowers, quite similarly coloured to this. Obviously the flower shapes are different, but we have a couple of species of honeysuckles, but they generally in areas that get slightly more rain, so closer to the mountains. So it's been a blast looking for flowers and attempting to look for big cats with you, but fortunately Jamie got those mating leopards, which is, I'm sure, provided you excitement, and I've just kept waffling on about all the different wildflowers. And I think VM and I are together again on the Sunset Safari, so I think we're going to continue our search for edible plants and whatever else we might be able to find. But until the Sunset Safari, I'm sure you're quite sick of listening to me, so go enjoy the last few minutes with Jamie and the leopards.
We are still with our leopards, and despite my best Lionel Richie crooning and the mood lighting set by the dark cloudy sky and the green bushes, it has not inspired our leopards to move up from their position and to mate once again. In fact, the most movement we've had from Tingana is just flicking the flies around him. That's generally quite common with leopards mating, so they'll mate quite a lot during the night and in the early hours of the morning, and as the morning starts to heat up, they start to slow down. Never mind, we will just have to wait for our sunset safari this afternoon. Hopefully they decide to stay in this general area and not disappear on us. We'll keep our fingers crossed, and you'll have to join us then to find out what will happen. As always, a big thank you to Brian for his fantastic camera work, and of course a big thank you to the Thumb as well for joining us, as well as to our lovely ladies Kirsty and Rebecca in final control, and our tech team out and about and making sure everything flows smoothly, which, as you can imagine, is sometimes an absolutely enormous job. And most importantly, thank you to all of you for your questions and your comments that you feed through to us. We really appreciate them, and they make our drives so much more fun and entertaining for all of us. So have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and we're going to leave off with the last view of our leopards.